Okay, folks, we'll go ahead and get started. Fair warning, if what we have planned for this hour doesn't work, we're going to make all of you move as opposed to just a few of you. So just be ready.
That sounds ominous.
Reasonably so. I'm Maureen Cahill.
I'm Jason Tubinis.
And we're both from the University of Georgia School of Law. We both work in the library. I'm the student services librarian.
IT librarian. I get to do a little bit of column A and column B.
Yep. And this, just so you know what we have done, this past semester in the spring, actually in the fall, I started plotting. And I said, oh, students don't see enough of Jason. So I went to Jason and the law school's webmaster, who also spends about a half a time as one of our librarians, and I said, why don't you guys put together something that we can offer to students outside of class on each of the three main parts of the tech audit. So a session on Word, a session on Excel, a session on Adobe. We offered them, we had 3 sessions. We offered each of the 3 sessions twice. So we went through and offered one series that we did at a slot where there were the fewest classes scheduled in the morning. And then we came back around and did the same thing again at a slot and the time where there were the fewest classes scheduled in the afternoon. We did a fair amount of publicity. We even got a couple of shout outs from a couple of people on the faculty about what we were doing. And
we had, well, let's put it this way. We offered a certificate saying, this student is tech audit ready. Or they could put this on. We printed it. We had a very nice certificate that we crafted by hand, put on very nice stock paper. This is something that we said you could put on your resume. It would look very impressive as you're going out to the. We had all of 2 students complete the whole thing.
And keep in mind that not only did we offer each session twice, we recorded the sessions. We linked to them from our website, so you honestly could have done this, but never coming to one of the scheduled sessions. We did have a fair amount of interest. I had lots of people come to me in the library and say, oh, I need to do this. But they didn't. We had folks who came, and we advertised it pretty broadly in the law school. And so for specific sessions, we had, the admins who work for some of the professors come. We had a couple of folks from our career development office. We had a couple of professors who came to one or the other. But in the final analysis, we never had more than 10 people in that audience at any one time. So what was going on? We weren't offering pizza. Maybe that was the problem. We were offering, because it wasn't at lunchtime. And what we've found as the years go by, we used to do lunchtime sessions where we did offer pizza. And we got, the pizza folks hated when we called them because we wanted 700 pizzas. We had sessions where we turned people away at the door. I don't know if they heard what we had to say, but they certainly enjoyed the pizza. And we did some sessions that, honestly, we were in one of the biggest rooms at the law school, and we did sometimes turn people away. But what happened over the years, and I'm sure you've seen this at your law school, more and more student groups are doing pizza. More and more, our career development office is doing lots of lunchtime sessions. They're doing pizza. When you look at the schedule, there are 2 schedule slots in our week where there are no classes. It's at a lunchtime on Monday and Wednesday. And if you look at the calendar at our law school for those slots of time, there are 3 times as many things scheduled as there ever are numbers of classes scheduled during the class time. students are running crazy. And, you know, coming to something extra is just that. It's coming to something extra. So what we want to do, I think you're here because you think there are technology skills that probably law students ought to leave law school with. And you suspect that most law students don't have them. Our law students were quite honest with me. They don't themselves feel like they have them. So what we want to know is, who here has done anything about this? How many folks have offered sessions like we did outside of the classroom? Special sessions. Okay, a pretty good smattering of hands. How many folks have been invited into someone else's class to do a session? Was that mostly clinics? What sort of class were you invited into?
Well, I sort of helped teach this class called Technology and the Practice of Law.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, it was really a for-credit class about technology. Okay.
But I also host seminars.
Is that what other folks, I mean, did anybody get invited into a class that was actually about something else? Well, what was it?
I've done several. I've done, let's see, a couple different, sorry.
It's afternoon. This is disconnected from everything.
Immigration, environmental law, national security law. Yeah, our professors like to use us as subs when they're
okay, when they're going to be out of town. Yeah.
They're like, hey, come in, talk to our students about research in this area.
Okay.
We've been going into classes where students have to turn in an assignment, and then we try to teach them technologies to make that easier. So for classes where they're doing presentation, we'll say these are best practices with presentation technologies. For legal writing, let's explain how you're going to do a table of contents in under 2 hours. Hooray! And even we have a class called a class on persuasion, and he wanted students to be able, this faculty member wanted students to work on projects that had nothing to do with traditional writing. So he said, can you teach our students visual literacy? Sure, we'll do that. So we've been looking for those kinds of opportunities and inserting ourselves whenever we can.
Yeah.
We also do a class where we actually go and teach them. It's for interviewing, counseling, and negotiation. We actually teach them how to record their sessions on Panopto. So the students actually do client interview, simulated interviews using Panopto. We'll teach them that.
Yes, sir.
I was brought into a class to teach students the basics of using Skype for an interview.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, it wasn't me, so I don't really take credit, but one of the other librarians is a very tech person. And viewed it as Zotero for researching and pulling all that in and how it's associated with Word, and you can kind of pull it all together.
Yep.
And that was really well.
Yep. Now, here's the question for those of you who have been invited, other than the, oh, I'm going to be out of town
That's me.
justification. What do you think it was that encouraged or gave your faculty the idea to invite you in to do this?
Well, we handed our legal writing faculty a menu of modules that they could pick from. We gave them modules in legal research and modules in technology. We said, we'll teach this in 15, 20 minutes, pick what you want, and they did, and they brought us in.
Perfect. You know what our legal writing folks tell us when it's time for the brief to be turned in? They don't need any help doing this. They're millennials. Yeah. Anybody else? How did you get into a classroom? Sir?
Well, we did a workshop on Panopto and how it can be used in skills-based classes. So Professor Raj in Interviewing, Counseling, Negotiation reached out to me and said, I'd like to use that for my class.
Yeah. So kind of behind the scenes, you're doing some PR, if nothing else, to get this. Has anybody gone on a crusade to convince the folks at your law school that these are necessary skills?
I was just going to add that I just asked if I could be assistants in their class, and I try to target the classes that some classes not going to happen.
Yeah.
Other classes it works, and after I do that, then I talk to them about maybe possibly coming into other classes that they teach, because once you're working with someone well, then they're more apt to let you do something next in a different environment. So
Yeah. Back to the crusade. Yes, ma'am.
I'm actually going to teach a class this fall
Okay.
about technology.
Okay. Great.
They leave with a great education, but they don't know how to do anything.
Yep. And that's the next place we're going. How many of you have actually taught a 4-credit class on technology for your law school? Got 1, got 2, and you're in, who's got one in the works? 3, okay. We've got one in the works. We proposed a class, and we actually made a mistake when we did it. The title of the class is Research and Technology Skills for the Georgia Attorney. It was proposed as a 1-hour class. Prep is fun. How do you squeeze all that in to a 1 to 15 50-minute sessions? Our associate dean is a smart man. He said, let's write this up so that we only need approval once, so that when you want to expand it to 2 hours, you don't have to come back to the curriculum committee to do that. I mean, that's actually the way it was approved, is a 1 to 2. And I have a feeling this may, if we repeat it in the spring, we may do it again as a 1 credit, just because we won't have time to queue it up. But I have a feeling that by next fall, if we're going to teach this again, it will be as a 2 credit, or we'll split the research and technology pieces. Those of you who are here, I mean, it's because you're interested in this, obviously. Is it in offering a 4-credit class that is what you are most interested in? Because what I'd like to do, if the folks who have done this or are planning to do this are willing, is invite them to come down here and talk. We'll guide you through with questions and a lot of suggestion as to what we think people would like to hear. But what I'd like to do is share as broad an experience, because what we've been doing as we've been preparing is getting as many folks as we know about to share syllabi with us. And what people are doing around the country is actually very different from school to school. And I can see good reasons for all of the ways folks are approaching this. And so what we hoped to get out of this session is a nice range, and I'm gonna, a nice range of experience and thought on the issue. Can I invite you down?
Sure.
Yes.
Can you just explain though what you do teach right now? What is this class like?
Okay, well, we have not taught it yet.
Oh.
It will be taught for the first time in the fall.
And you have nothing?
Oh, we have lots of, we have
just
more
wanted to
than
know
we'll
kind of what
squeeze
you were
into the
doing.
time.
Just kind of what you
We're
hope to
taking, because we threw the Georgia piece into it, the research piece, we're shunting out 6 of the 14 weeks of the semester into the Georgia research. 8 weeks will be the technology piece.
Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to remember what some of the tech pieces were off the top of my head. It's going to be fundamentals of technology. Let's look at what the basic differences are between Windows and Mac and Unix-based systems. What are all the components in a computer? After that will be virtual office management, so document management, client management, conflicts management, hours and billing. What else? Which
means we'll be looking at the various products that provide these kinds of services for folks. We'll be looking at communications technologies, so that we'll have folks looking at what is it that lawyers put in their website? What makes for a good website? What are the ethical pitfalls of having a website? How do lawyers use social media? Is that a good idea or a bad idea?
I think we also want to make ethics and security an overriding aspect of all of this, because as more of these communications, as more as this ends up online, there's a lot of new considerations and there's a lot of ABA opinions about all the things you need to make sure you're doing or not doing as you're venturing out there so that you're not exposing yourself or your clients to undue risk. We'll deal with basic presentation technologies. I polled, I got the list of the folks who had pre-registered for our class, and I polled them at the end of the spring semester. I just sent them all an email and said, I'm looking forward to the spring. I'd like you to help us out in putting the final touches on the class. Tell us what it is you want to do, what it is you really hope you're going to be doing when you leave law school. And in what kind of a setting? You want to go work for the government? You want to work in a large firm setting? You want to hang up a shingle? Just give us an idea of what you expect from your life as a lawyer. And if during the summer you're going to be doing anything, whether it's working in a clinic, in an externship, you've got paid employment, if you're going to be working in an office that does law, pay attention to these things. How is technology used to organize the work of the office? How is it used to communicate with clients and with each other, with the courts, with other lawyers? Are there any written or stated policies about technology when you walk in the door? For instance, is there a bring your own device policy or anything like that? And I heard from 2/3 of the folks who will be in the class in the fall, and they're all over the board. We're going to have to do a lowest common denominator kind of thing because we've got everything from I'm all ready to go hang up a shingle to this will be my second summer working for a big firm in their patent practice area, and of course that's what I'm going to do when I get out of school. I already have a firm offer. So yeah, the interests and needs of these folks are widely divergent. But we're talking too much about us. If you'll come down, who else has taught who would be willing to share with the group?
I taught a course in the spring,
come on down and let us
if you'll indulge me for just a moment,
sure.
At 4 o'clock in this room, I'm doing a session
yes, you can. I was going to say,
offering a law practice course.
No, and you're not.
If I come up there now, I'm going to just reveal all my trade secrets.
Yeah. And we hope for a good trade.
I'd love to be a panelist, but I'd also love for everyone interested to stay at 4 o'clock. And that's later in the day, and the beer walk is calling, so.
We hope to set them up for you.
I'm happy to answer questions, but I'd like to keep it under the vest.
There were a couple of hands over here. Come on, own up to it.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So what you guys are proposing to teach is not a class, like I think Doug is teaching on how to use legal technology in a practice, but more like
basic computing?
More like basic, I mean, what do you guys?
That's a single session we will do on basic computing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if even a complete session. No, it is, we want to be as hands-on as we can, but we realize that we kind of wrote ourselves into a corner by making it a 1-hour class and including the technology piece. We can actually put you at a microphone here. So,
so it's really legal practice is really what you're going to teach.
Yeah, and as much of how technology is used, some hands-on using it. We told you about the process that we went through to get our class approved, at least a little bit. And let me just fill in the backstory on that for those of you who might be interested in doing it. Because, I mean, that can be an issue some places. We've been teaching ALR only for 2 years at this point. But the experience that our associate dean has had with that class is that students love it. We always have wait lists for it. We brought him a very complete well fleshed out proposal when we first offered that class, which included learning objectives and an outline of the class, things that he was quite honest, he seldom sees from the rest of the faculty when they want to propose a new class. They mostly come in his office scratching their heads or their beards saying, yeah, I've kind of got this interested and I think students would be. So I think the very fact that we are so thorough, and the written proposal I gave him for this was very thorough, was a huge factor in the almost falling over backwards approval of the class. Did you have any kind of, were you involved in getting the class approved?
I've come to find out that other law schools operate quite differently than Cumberland, because I have been asked now here and at ABA Tech Show, was it difficult to get this done? No. Basically, I have stayed in contact with, I should say I'm the information technology librarian, aka computer concierge. True stories. Bottle of wine on your friend's MacBook, 3 a.m. It's Vegas, what do? I will talk to you. MacBook in the bathtub, I will recover your hard drive, that sort of thing. But also anything in the library, some research, hopefully not too much. So they know that I've stayed in contact with these kids, and I get questions about what kind of office space, what kind of scanner, what kind of hardware, software, do I need an office, blah, 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 right? So a professor who I love dearly there, Professor Bishop, suggested I teach a class. He went to the dean and went to the assistant academic dean. I said several times, hey, you want to do it? That was it.
Has anybody, have you heard horror stories about approval? Have you started the process of getting a class approved? Anyone? Sir.
Two things. Here, I work at DU here.
Okay.
It's like that.
Is it?
Okay. I said I think I want to teach a class. I'm getting it ready for practice. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, please. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what it sounded. Do you think that's what you're going to come into in your institutions if you set out to do a similar thing? Did you have a hard time getting it?
I will say this much, and again, I'm going to talk a lot about this whole process, or partly about it. It required a formal proposal to the Academic Affairs Committee and formal approval. It got approved, and then it didn't get put on the academic calendar for 3 years. So talk about frustrating.
Really?
Having to have some stick-to-itiveness to really want to do it. But yeah, I'll get into that at 4 o'clock. But yeah, so it was definitely a formal process.
Yes, sir.
I think it's unrealistic to expect that these are going to breeze through in most institutions, because there's two things going on. There's declining enrollments, which means that faculty are having trouble filling up their boutique classes. So it's all about turf. They see every new course, especially a practical course, as a threat to their turf.
And that may be true in some institutions, definitely. Yes.
Are you building your class as like a solo practitioner class?
No, we didn't. We left it very open, and that may have been a mistake, because as I explained, we got people who will be heading to virtually every kind and level of practice imaginable. Have you had the same?
A lot of our students either want to be on their own or in small groups. The longer I'm in this field, the fewer and fewer I'm seeing that want to work however many hours a week for that money. They just don't care anymore. They want to be happy. That's the bottom line that I have found with the 25-year-olds that I know. So I would say it's probably heavy on the "are you want to be on your own" kind of thing, or in a small group. That said, we're also going to be using TrialPad and apps like that, which could be used by anybody, anywhere, right?
I think the notion that you need a very detailed, regardless of your environment, you should start with a very detailed proposal that includes learning outcomes. All of a sudden your institutions have to have learning outcomes. And face it, you're probably, most of you at law schools where no one at your institution knows what a learning outcome is. I mean, they really do. They just don't know what the word's attached to in real life. And if you write down things that you call learning objectives, it can't hurt in making your proposal look professional. The other thing is talk to other folks who have proposed and had classes approved, because you need to know what the local environment is like.
Yeah, I would just say I'm at Cleveland Marshall College of Law, and I recently proposed a similar class, and yeah, there was a procedure that we had to go through with the curriculum committee, but honestly, I was surprised at how excited the faculty were about the class. I didn't think it would be, I did run into the turf war thing with, well, one person that taught sort of a, you know, like technology-related class, but for the most part, they were very excited. They wanted to participate in the class and come in and be guest speakers. So, but I do agree with you that it helps to have everything fleshed out. You know, they told me, I don't have to stick to that exactly. I could change it up later, but just to show them that I had a detailed plan about learning objectives and, you know, what topics I was going to have.
Yeah.
So I'm at Cleveland Marshall too, and I was on the curriculum committee and got Sue's proposal, and she doesn't give herself enough credit. She did a terrific job, and something that I would recommend that anybody do who was worried about getting a course approved. She went, and by the time her proposal came to the committee, she had talked to at least half the committee members one-on-one about, do you think this is a good idea? What do I need to put in my proposal? No, I thought she'd just talk to me. And it turned out she talked to a bunch of people, and it did sail through, but it was because of the groundwork. I think. I mean, it's a terrific idea too, and I think it'll be a terrific course. But it was also, it went so smoothly because of the groundwork that she laid.
Okay, the class you will be teaching, how many credit hours is it?
It's 1 right now.
Okay, is it graded or pass-fail?
Right now it's going to be pass-fail because it's still in the experimental stage.
Okay.
I'm not going to require a book,
okay,
which they're very happy about. I'm going to have a lot of stuff on reserve. I'm going to use Moodle and have a lot of things on there.
Okay, yeah, and so talk about the broad topics that you're going to
I pulled up my syllabus.
Perfect.
So, like I said, I've kept in contact with a lot of these people, and so I think a lot of this is going to change as the dates come, as more people agree what to do. I should say, if any of y'all can ever go to ABA Tech Show, I don't know if anybody has been in here before. It is fantastic. I got so many people agreeing to give me stuff, speak, give free access to a trial pad and all, which are expensive things, especially if you're a student. We bought an iPad, so they don't even have to have one if they don't want to buy one or can't. Okay, just to go briefly, we're going to talk about physical space because that's a big deal right now. One of our speakers, he doesn't even have an office anymore. He does everything virtual. In fact, he doesn't even practice law anymore. He has a lawyer that does that. He does the PR. I mean, that's how he's transitioned. I've got an accountant coming who does accounting for some of our graduates. Do you need an accountant? Should you do your own stuff? Probably not. Social media is going to be a big thing. So many of them, social media is I'm at this bar and I'm drunk or whatever, right? And they need not be doing that.
Well, I'm really pissed off with this judge.
Exactly. It's amazing how many of them talk about their jobs and how much they hate them, and they should never do that. But so yeah, a lot of that, and then how to brand yourself. Security, I'm really big into that. You know, I believe fully, if you ever have an attorney who's keeping your precious documents on Google Cloud or Google Drive or something like that, find a new attorney. These things, that's just what I think. These things should be secure, so I want to talk about that. Case management, apps. I'm also going to have the librarians come in, the reference librarians, because at our library we have what I call Baby Westlaw and Baby Lexis patron access stuff. That tons of things for you as a graduate that you can use at no cost. And I don't think they realize how much is still available for them after they graduate. I've got a company called CaseAware that's giving us free access for the semester, and they're going to be able to learn how to actually put in time and go through the dates of a case or something like, you know, January 1st is this, the 10th is this, to assign tasks to other people. Let's see. And I do want them to do presentations at the end. I'm not quite sure how, still haven't thought about that. I don't want them just to walk out without having done anything, but maybe how they would set up their own firm or what they would use, that sort of thing. I've also got a document review company coming in that's going to give a presentation, because I want them to see what document review really is. I personally think e-discovery is thrown around a whole lot and they think it's glamorous. I don't think they really know what it is. So I want them to see that. But in the end, these are people who are going to have to make choices, and so I want them to be educated, and maybe these will be some of the people that they buy from, or at least they'll have a hopping point. Does that help?
Much. And it's a good segue to the situation that we're in. Athens is about 70 miles from Atlanta. And so if we're not going to Skype people in, bringing in speakers is really difficult for us. We're asking people to do a lot if we ask folks to come in as speakers. I know Emory has been teaching a technology class for 2 or 3 years now, and they have a speaker come in almost every session, so that they have someone who runs a company that provides technology services to law firms come and speak. They have folks from the various vendors. They have a technology, someone who runs a technology department at a large firm come and speak. And a complete list of people who can do this. In Athens, not so much. We really don't have that at our fingertips. So this time around, we're going to deliver the content ourselves. We are also going to have folks do presentations, and quite honestly, we wanted folks to be able to get better at presentations, not just give one. So we'll have a session on presentation technology and presentation, just the nuts and bolts of using presentation software, but also tips on how not to use presentation software. And we're going to actually have our students prepare 3 short presentations. 4 to 7 minutes, honestly. Limited number of slides for each. And what we want for each of those presentations is what you've prepared through the presentation software that you're using. So if you're using PowerPoint, your slides, or whatever it is you're doing, what your visuals are going to be for the presentation, and we want a script for the presentation. We're going to have folks do this in pairs, just because we've got 20 people in the class. And 20 presentations when you've only got 15 hours of class time is not a particularly good ratio. And what we're going to have is the groups will each know that one of those 3 presentations they're going to have to present to the class, rather than all 3 of them. And we figure with the script and the slides. And we'll be looking at this and probably asking folks, after we've done some assessment of what they've turned in, to post their presentations for the whole class to see, because we really want them to explore things that we won't have time to explore in class. I know at least one of the presentations will have we already have a long list of, it's not really technology companies, but although some of it is, the folks who are really impacting the legal profession through use of technology. So we'll do some of the matching company, the attorney-client matching services. Certainly you have to talk about LegalZoom if you're going to talk about technology and the way the practice of law is changing. Some of the software packages, some of the nifty software packages that review patent litigation, some of the document automation. We'd like for folks to look at something like NIATA that folks at Georgetown are using for the Iron Tech competition. The things, the packages that allow people, without knowing how to code, to break legal processes down into their component parts and perhaps do an intake form for a legal services corporation. That's certainly one of the projects that's been done in the last couple of years at Georgetown, and that sort of thing.
So, random question.
Yes.
That just popped into my head as you were
perfect.
Like talking about all this tech. how would you answer a student who's like, why should I care? I'll hire someone.
More power to you,
More
I guess. I mean, you know,
But how can you hire someone to
You
do
don't
something
know.
for you that you don't even know the parameters of what it is? You don't have to be able to do it, but you certainly have to know the parameters of what it is they're offering to do for you and what your responsibilities as a lawyer with clients requires you to make sure they are doing as far as protecting client files, and any number of other things.
the attorney that I mentioned to you that's going to come speak that doesn't even practice law anymore, Tripp Watson, he spent $800 a month for 10 months having somebody figure all this out for him. And so lots of trial and error, what worked, what didn't, but not everybody's got an extra $800 a month while they're trying to make a living.
Wouldn't it be scary though to a student then of like, well, I could pay $800 or I really don't understand anything I learned in the class about security and you know what, I just give up. Like, there's way too much risk in, me setting up my own stuff. Isn't that why I hire Clio? Isn't that why I hire, all these things?
And hiring Clio is really different from hiring a consulting firm.
This is very true. Yes.
And so, another set of the presentations I hope we'll have folks do is to look at, pick a company that provides a service in the cloud. What is it they offer? How do they charge lawyers for it? How do you determine if they meet the requirements that you must impose on that kind of service of security and whatnot? We do want folks to explore all of that. We can give them the framework of what their responsibilities are and point them to the folks, the other thing that more than anything we want to teach folks is if you want to keep up on this and you want people to help you understand it, then don't leave law school without knowing about the law practice management section of the ABA. Don't leave law school without knowing about these 4 blogs where people of really high reputation talk about technology, what it can do for you, and what you should be afraid of.
Chances are your state bar has...
Our state bar not only has a law practice management section, they have an office at the state bar that has copies of lots of the software that lawyers might want to buy that you can go to the state bar office and try. So, knowing about the resources that are available to you once you leave. You don't have to know, you can't know everything about the law before you leave law school. You have to know where to go look for it.
The Florida Bar has a really good law office, LOMAS, L-O-M-A-S, that has a lot of free resources for attorneys as well. And in fact, they're just giving themselves an overhaul, and they do a great job as well.
Have you thought about how you're going to present the material in class?
Well, for the days it's speakers, I'm not doing that. So that's my plan for that.
Yeah.
But for days that I have to do something, it's probably going to be hands-on with the app of the day or case aware or whatever. But I'm also, like for presentations, I'm a huge fan of Keynote. I probably will use some of that. But a lot of it's going to be coming from them. Why are they there? What do they want to know? What do they plan to get out of it?
How much, are you going to have folks do projects?
Yes, but I was taking notes what you were saying because the part of me that's having difficulty with this is the actually planning something for 14 weeks. I've done one-offs here and there for classes and for just professors how to use whatever, but I've not, and I've spoken at conferences, I've just never done something straight out like that. So I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around that. But then also the presentation thing. I've got 35 students. It was originally 16, and then now 3L went and complained to the registrar. And so they asked if I would, they have lots of power. And so they asked if I would move the class and it was going to be in the law library, now it's going to be in the law school when I double the size and all that, and I said, sure. So I can't really divide them 2 by 2, it's not so even. But I was hoping that they could form like small law firms somehow, but then again, I don't want them just to do with their friends, because I think that's their natural thing. So I'm not sure how to divide them up fairly, you know, appropriately. And my original thought was, okay, you're on your own, this is your small firm, how are you going to set it up? And that could be anything from, I want them to talk about the space and the hardware and the people they might need to use. Like one of the things that ABA Tech Show was, is it Ruby on Call?
Call Ruby.
Call Ruby, yeah, you know, do you want to go that route, or do you want a human, or you can now rent a building with a person in it that services everybody in the building. So that was my original thought for their project, was what would you do?
Yep. What else are you going to do as far as assessment?
I have been asked already, am I going to let somebody book the class? But since there's, you know, who's my favorite, whatever, you know, they want that desperately for some reason. But no grades, so no, not this time. Okay. Attendance for one. I'm thinking participation, since I can't give a grade for actual work. I would like proof they actually go to the library and check things out on reserve. That's just me being nasty. And I can get that from my cataloger. I guess it's going to come down to how they behave, because I watch them. You know, one of my favorite movies of all time is Jurassic Park, and I can quote that on a daily basis. And I think they are like the little dinosaurs testing offenses constantly in different places to see, you know, where they're going to get zapped or not. And that's what law students are. So basically, how they're going to behave during the class, and what's that presentation going to be like at the end? Is it going to be just slapped together in 2 seconds, or?
And like I told you, we're going to do the 3 presentations, whether they're, even though they're only going to present one of them. We'll grade the quality of those presentations, but I also want to be able to grade on the improvement, if any, that as we talk about presentation technology and the skills that you need to do a good presentation. Are you paying enough attention to get better at this? We will have folks probably use the filmed sessions that we presented in the spring on those 3 pieces of the tech audit. And then we also did an assessment of those technology skills and have everyone in the class, outside of class, look at those and complete the assessment that we did for the tech audit piece.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So one of our faculty actually got Casey Flaherty out to our institution, and we installed a legal tech assessment for a small upper division class, and our students failed miserably. And the assessment basically assesses how well students are using word processing tools as well as spreadsheets. So if somebody paginates it by hand and then there's references to pages, they're spending hours, lawyers are spending hours and hours of billable hours repaginating a document, which is not efficient, obviously. And so are any of these classes, because I hear you talking about very good topics, but none have really touched on just basic word processing or basic spreadsheet.
Like I said, we offered these last spring. We recorded all of the sessions that we did this past spring outside of a graded class. We will require either, I mean, maybe you don't need that help to pass our assessment within the time parameters that we give you for doing it, but maybe you do. So we have those. We also have access to lynda.com, where if they don't have these basic skills, they can get them. But no one, I don't want to pass anyone out of this class unless they can do the basic assessment that we came up with for Word, Excel, and Adobe. And it's not a lot of, I mean,
I was communicating with, I actually got the sampled student version of the tech audit, and I kind of went through it, like, okay, here's what they're doing, and I made a stripped down version. Let's use styles in Word. Let's do some basic formulas in Excel. Can you go back and forth from Word to a PDF and back? Can you protect it? Add passwords?
Can you strip it of metadata?
Right. I mean, nothing that some Google searching and looking through what the tech audit actually asks for. I mean, there's that giant list of here's everything that the audit goes for, and we flashed that at the beginning of our little miniature sessions, and it was just a deer in the headlights moment for them, like, oh, I don't know how I can do that. I can do search and I can do replace. So.
Well, it's oftentimes what do you search for to figure out what to do too.
Right.
They don't know what the keywords are that they have to search on.
Yeah. I don't know how many of you have talked to the CLIO folks while you've been here. They actually offer a wonderful service to law schools. You can sign up for free for academic access and create either a firm where you're the managing partner and all of your students are associates, or you can have students create individual firms. And they have both information, as in client files and legal problems that you can use. I was freaking out. It's like, I want people to use this, but I don't have time to make up client files.
The person to talk to is actually the person who's doing the practice management here at 4 o'clock. Doug Edmonds at CLIO, okay. And we actually use it for the pro bono program.
There you go, yeah.
At SC, and it works great.
But they have lesson plans, and they have exercises that you can require your students to do. The folks at Emory, they require folks to set up their firm, or at the beginning of the semester, and everything they do in the class is a client matter, so that they report all of the time they spend on the class, so that they get used to billing for time. And we'll use the software, probably not quite that extensively, but we will certainly require folks to do each of the basic exercises. And they're widely different and of increasing complexity as you work through them. So it gives students a very real notion. I want students to also do short papers for us. 1 or 2 pages, quick and dirty. Find a law firm that's doing what you hope to be doing and that's kind of the size of where you hope to go. Look at their website. And after we've been over the kinds of things that should be or shouldn't be on a lawyer's website, tell us what's good about it. Tell us what's bad. Tell us what you can find out about how this firm uses social media or any other kinds of technologies. Do they have a client portal? That sort of thing. So we're going to have a number of assessments throughout the semester, none of which is really test-like. I'll do a test in the Georgia research piece of it.
I think something we're kicking around is actually having a bank of large assignments for the very end, depending on the interest of the students. Like, okay, you want to hang your own shingle, here's a budget, find some databases, find some hardware, find some services that will help you get up and running, write a report about that. What else was there? There was.
Oh gosh, we had so many examples. We thought we would have lots of people we could squeeze to the front of the room to tell you about this. Since we're still, all of us here are still in the planning stage. I'm sorry some of the folks, because there are folks here who have done this, and I will scream at all of them that I'm aware of after the session, because I was hoping they'd come and give us. But let me just do a plug, because I was thrilled to see that your session was scheduled right after ours.
Likewise.
Because we wanted to give you an idea of all the many things you could think about and all the different ways that folks have approached this. And I'll be honest, as we've looked at syllabi, some folks are teaching classes that are almost exclusively the theories about all of this. How is technology changing the practice of law? What are the ethical considerations? It's none of it is hands-on. What is the history of technology, period, and the practice of law, this kind of thing. Other folks are doing a mixture. of theory and practice. And which, for us, I think, as we approach it, is going to be kind of, I think we have to explain the theory. Ideally, you would have more than one class on technology and the practice of law because there are so many things. I have to say, when I started reading, I got all excited about expert systems. And Jason pulled me off that limb. It's like, we're teaching a one-credit class and we've never done this before. Students will be afraid if we tell them it's almost like coding.
I got all excited. It's just pseudocode. Everyone can do that. No. It's 1 hour class. It's a 1 hour class.
Yes. So, but the world out there, the kinds of things you can do, the kinds of things your students do not appreciate about this, is really broad. So you could almost, I bet if everybody in this class paired up with one other person and sat down to write a syllabus for a class on technology and the practice of law, you would come up with different kinds of things because there are so many things to talk about. Anybody else want to squeeze a little something else out of this?
Well, I wanted to, she mentioned Word and Excel and that sort of thing. Has anybody used Smokeball or heard of them? They, I met them at ABA Tech Show, and it's legal management basically for your firm, but one of the side things they do is education stuff for how to use Word, how to use, and it's supposed to be free, is what I've been told. I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know that for sure, but that was one of the things they were plugging, were for lawyers how to use just these basic products. So that's, I'm going to look into that. Smokeball. The only thing I wasn't happy with is that product was only PC based and it wasn't web based, so you had to have, I think you had to have the computer there. And most people now, I think, am I wrong? Most people want to be mobile.
You're right, but it's also wrapped around Microsoft Office, basically.
That's correct, which was very nice. But a lot of them want phone, tablet, whatever on the go, and it would be good if they did that. But yeah, Smokeball.
I've probably missed this and you said, but the tech audit that you're referencing, is that something that you developed or your university did?
This, just Google Legal Tech Audits. It's Casey Flaherty. He's been on this crusade about getting lawyers up and ready to use the tools that they already have access to. He has this fantastic multiple stories about how, look, I can make a table of contents in 2 seconds, and I can make a cross-reference without having to break the entire document. And I can do this across 3 different pieces of software. Can you? No, you're wasting your client's time and money. Get better.
If they have a law school edition, it's done with the Suffolk University Law School.
Yes.
Annie Perlman. And they now have a Mac version.
Yeah,
yeah,
because when we started out, there was not the Mac version, and we had heard...
The Mac just came out like the end of the spring semester.
Okay, we had heard a lot of horror stories about the technical setup, or people who were doing it were actually saying, come use a library computer because you can't possibly set up your own computer so that you can...
But I will give them credit, they get back to you very quickly. It's from a company called TutorPro, and they're very helpful.
Do make sure that, because there are now 3, well, there's different audits out there. So there's TutorPro, which is the one for the law students. There's Casey Flattery's audit, which is for law firms. And Competence also offers audits and other materials for law firms as well. So there's different aspects of this. There are widely different ideas about what skills are needed and what the audits test and how they test it. So, you know, you may take a look at it and say, oh, this isn't quite where I think our students need to go, but it's a good, at least, initial indicator of the kinds of skills that people might be interested in. It is nice to look at the free one for students. It does walk you through it. It's very clicky, but at least, you know, the first parts of the audits are free. They also offer a lot of online resources to walk you through, you know, how things are done. There's also a paid component as well, so just keep that in mind for the tutor.
And the Word audit does a lot with styles.
It does.
Because I've taught style seminars, and I actually reformatted when I saw the legal tech audit and walked through it myself, the law school version, to actually gear it towards that, so they would have basically like a cheat sheet when they were about to do the audit.
Useful.
Well, thank you very much. This wasn't exactly what we thought we were doing this afternoon, but well, we made it through 57 minutes of talking about this, and do come back at 4 o'clock for